Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers Podcast, a podcast where we rank on a whole bunch of video games and the stuff that they're doing wrong. I'm Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by Kev.
Praise gaming!
Who might or might not be still muted. We'll never know.
Oh, we will, because we've already talked about how you have your Stream Deck set up.
We also have NightRose.
Hello!
And then
she was also praising gaming before the show.
And then lastly, we have Sinister Xaiphen.
I'm sure you're wondering why I gathered you all here.
Mustache until further notice.
We actually have also Xaiphen's mustache here. Xaiphen won't be joining us tonight, just his sinister mustache. Because that's what's important here, is not actually a person. We place importance on facial hair over the actual
imagery.
People.
It's all about imagery and status.
Yes,
it is.
What about Rose?
We're just going to leave Rose out?
No.
He already introduced me. Weren't you paying attention?
No, we're talking about the facial hair.
Yeah.
Oh.
The facial hair.
What facial hair?
That's what I said. We're going to discriminate.
Discriminate?
Mm-hmm. Hey, can I get an afro? We'll talk about my afro too.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, no, don't.
We can do that.
No. We get a big old afro, big floppy one.
Because that is obviously what's important.
It is.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities.
That's right.
So, things have happened this week. That not work. Things have happened, most notably, everything's broken, nothing's working right. We all know that. That's pretty standard.
Par for the course.
Kev, as I understand it, Kev has been obsessed with Warhammer 2 and has not stopped playing that in the entire week.
Basically.
I believe
Warhammer
it.
2 subtitled Anthem.
Nah.
Subtitled Anthem.
Anthem's a big no here.
Yeah.
I wanted to like Anthem. I really, really did.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much what you have is a split, of people wanting to like it or either wanting to not like it. Mm-hmm. And it was neither. If you wanted to hate it, you couldn't because it was almost good. But if you wanted to like it, you couldn't because it was almost good.
All of my issues with Anthem are technical. Like my biggest beefs mostly were fixed during that week trial, or that early access week. Most of those were fixed. But I have this weird issue with mouse and keyboard. Like I can completely take my hands off it. My javelin's still running in a direction, shooting, and my hands will be in my lap. It's like I got hacked.
I had that issue with, off-host network connectivity with Andromeda. That would happen frequently.
I had never seen that. And we know me.
I keep running or rubber band.
See, I wasn't rubber banding.
Yeah.
It was like I would literally just take my hands off the controls, and they would just basically like auto W by himself, and just run forward. I don't have that issue with any other games. Yes, I turned it off and back on.
Did you try unplugging it though?
Yes, and then I had to alt for the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Fun shit.
My thing is,
and also the game doesn't like my Bluetooth headphones. I would turn on the game and the headphones would just cut, and I could still like go in my browser, hear stuff. I could hear stuff in other games. Anthem, nope.
Run it through a digital interface.
I'm not complicating things. I'm just not going to buy the game.
He's going to siphon it up.
Siphon up the situation.
See, Xaiphen doesn't understand. See, rather than go through all the malarkey of this, I just can't buy the game. I'll just keep my money.
That's an option.
Oh,
yeah. Very good option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my thing is that I have been recommending against anybody purchasing Anthem simply because the game frankly does not have, it's not finished, it's not complete. It's 2/3 of a game, I think, as I put it. It's got a decent early and mid game to it, but pretty much universally everybody says after anywhere between 20 to 40 hours, depending on your mentality, the game just kind of I'm done. And it's like,
well, here's the thing though, don't say that if EA pays you to do a review.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But the thing is that I've been
giving away our premium content.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not our only premium content.
Yeah, no. Our premium content will now be served in loot boxes. They cost $2.99 each.
Give me the loot. Give me the box.
However, if you
maybe you'll get a good story. Maybe you'll just get cat videos. Who knows? You always get something of value. Therefore, it's not gambling.
Maybe you'll get a piece of paper that just says cat picture.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually don't actually get anything.
we will give you a guarantee after so many loot boxes, though.
No, nothing that special on there. But yeah, it's. I just feel like that. Unfortunately, there might have been. All right, so let me get the unpopular opinion out of here, and this is entirely opinion-based conjecture. I don't have any evidence to support this, but my theory on why it feels like the game is 2/3 done was largely because BioWare got an emergency all-stop probably about the middle of last year to go back and rip out all of the loot boxes that were laden in the game. Because that was the heart of EA's, like, yeah, I would say probably August, September-ish time frame. That was really whenever the loot box thing was coming to the heads. Probably about a month before you heard BioWare announce very spectacularly that there would be no loot boxes in Anthem. That was probably either right after or right before they had started the process of ripping them out of the game. And that's my theory on there. Like I said, no evidence, and chances are we'll never know exactly if that happened or not.
It's EA. They had loot boxes. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain.
The theory makes sense.
Yeah, it was Need for Speed. What was the Need for Speed game late in 2016, right? Is that when Battlefield 2 came out? Battlefield 2 is 2016? 2017? God damn it, what year is it? 2017.
2017, I think.
Yeah, late 2017 when Need for Speed Rivals.
It was 2016.
Was it 2016?
Battlefields every 2 years. We just got a Battlefield.
No, Battlefront. Battlefront.
Oh, Battlefront. Yeah, Battlefront was 2017.
Battlefield 5 was end of last year, so it was end of 2018. So
and then I thought you said Battlefield 1, which was the end of 2016.
Sorry, yeah, no. Battlefront 2 and Need for Speed Rivals came out at the end of 2017. That's what started the kind of like the slow build up to EA backing down on a lot of their loot box practices. So,
wait, is it really fair to blame Need for Speed? Because nobody really blamed Need for Speed. Everybody was blaming Battlefront.
Well, no, Battlefront was the big one.
Got destroyed. It's actually a decent game.
But the thing is that it wasn't. I mean, and there was also Shadow of War got a lot of shit for it too at the time, and that's not EA. That was a WB. But the thing is. Brother. The thing is that Need for Speed Rivals, the major thing about that is it looks straight up like a fucking slot machine, and that was really what people use that for. Was that, dude, this, you're gonna say this isn't gambling? It's literally a fucking slot machine. So I think they more quietly removed the loot boxes out of Need for Speed Rivals. I may be wrong. They may not have given a shit.
The problem is with EA, and Activision does this too. They don't just like subtly try to ram it in. No, they put their dick on the table and then say, "Okay, you're just gonna deal with this."
Yeah,
they go all in, all up front, no lube. Fuck EA, fuck Activision. In the chat, please.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect on there. It's more or less, to me, what I see it as is that I see that they can't help themselves but try to fuck everything up, mostly because it's like they need to make those profit demands, right, by their investors, and their investors want more and more profits, and they've got to keep showing growth. And the way they show growth is to release more loot box games, because loot boxes are a what would I call it? They're a snowball effect, right? If I can release one game with loot boxes that keeps earning money year over year, and then I release another game with loot boxes that earns money year over year, then it's not like it was previously where I would release a game, make money off that game for the first couple months, and then not really make anything more after that. And then,
I mean, let's be real though. When it comes to EA, they're kind of like that person we were talking about before the podcast. That they just have no kind of self control when they know they can get a loot box.
yep.
Yeah.
That's that person kind of like when he gets around underage girls. They're kind of like that too.
Oh, damn.
Yes. I made my R. Kelly reference for the day.
Serious shade. Serious shade.
But anyway, let's hook into this here. So going into part of the Anthem story though is that now it feels like a lot of times EA can't help themselves, and one of the aspects of their kind of whole strategy, not just been loot boxes that I've been critical of. I've been extremely critical of a lot of their marketing too, and a lot of people have heard me rant about their marketing over and over again.
Or their unfinished games.
Yeah, they're unfinished games too. But I've ranted a lot about their marketing, mostly because I feel like that in some cases it flirts with some ethically gray areas. Not anything unethical, not anything illegal. It's just a little shady to me. One of the big ones on there is actually the EA Game Changers program, which nothing against anybody who's in those programs. I know a few of the people that are involved in it, and they're good enough people. It's not anything they're doing that is incorrect.
There's a few shills, but I don't think they're all shills.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are pretty fair in most cases. However, I feel like that the act of being in the Game Changers program does introduce the potential possibility for unnecessary bias. Mainly predicated on the fact that you're receiving exclusive preferential treatment from the company whom you might want to provide coverage for. And by receiving that preferential treatment, you may feel ingratiated to them and maybe gloss things up and be a little bit more positive. Or alternatively, you may fear losing that exclusive access and therefore be a little bit more positive than normal. So hit or miss, I feel like that it opens the possibility of being biased enough to where just simply saying the content was provided by EA Game Changers doesn't necessarily always correctly relay what I feel like might be more biased than we understand.
Oh, they biased like a motherfucker.
Yeah. Now, now in this case though, this story on here is a kind of a he said, she said. We don't really have a clear story on here, or a clear line on who's right. We just have essentially allegations and then the official statements from EA. So essentially what it was is this guy, this YouTube creator, GGG Man lives, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how his name is said, but
apparently, like, I'd never heard of this dude before the story either, but apparently he's always been a pretty straight up guy. From the people that I follow, that I trust a little more, that do watch this guy.
Yeah. So Kev, what's the rundown of this story essentially?
EA paid him to review Anthem. He gave Anthem a bad review. He said it was basically trash. And EA made him take the video down, made him take out the watermarks. Said he could put it back after he took out like all of the Game Changer stuff. But apparently he got blacklisted out of the Game Changers because of it. Because he completely tore this game a new one.
That wouldn't surprise me. So, and then
EA's denying it. They're just saying, "Oh, well, you didn't properly disclose."
Yeah,
which he clearly did.
Well, essentially the thing is, and I've known about this for a while, so just to kind of give the full thing on there, EA has two branding logos, and I've seen these before. These were pretty clearly outlined. I want to say like 2-3 years ago, something like that. EA actually came out with pretty strict guidelines on this, and we actually talked about it, I think, on a podcast God damn, we've been around too long. But essentially, they have a presented by EA Game Changers and sponsored by EA, right? And those are their two branding watermarks that you throw in there. Presented by EA Game Changers is essentially the one where they're not directly paid. They're paid, to me, they're compensated by exclusive access, which to me is still a means of compensation. But that being said,
paid in loot boxes.
The thing is that they're essentially flown out to a studio where they get exclusive insider access to see the game beforehand. They usually get to capture some of the game footage. Although they have an embargo, they can't make videos and release them immediately. They can put together the videos and have them queued for release on a specific embargo day later on down the line. But that does give them kind of a head start into exclusive content for a title, which does give them a competitive edge a lot on YouTube, because people will go to the channels that have the most relevant content often. In any case, though, that's the presented by EA Game Changers. If you see that, those people have been compensated with exclusive access to the game to get early footage of the game so that they can release content shortly before launch. It's marketing. That's all it is. It's influencer marketing, right? Sponsored by EA means that EA cut that person a fucking check straight up. Like, here's $1,000, make a video about this game, or here's $10,000. It probably depends on your reach as a channel. You getting 100,000 to 500,000 views of video, they're probably gonna give you a hefty check. In any case, supposedly what EA claims is that he fell into the latter category. He was directly cut a check to make the video. He was sponsored to make that video. However, he had the watermark in the video that said presented by EA Game Changers, not sponsored by EA. That's their allegation, that that he had the incorrect branding, and EA is pretty strict on that. Conversely, he says that he was a part of the Game Changers program and he was releasing the video under that, although he was compensated for the video. So it's kind of a gray area that we don't really understand. The key on there is that he did say, or the YouTube channel did decline to share the contract he signed relating to the videos or his correspondence with EA PR representatives, that he says he was told to remove the video for its contents. I'd imagine that there's probably a lot of NDA stuff on there. Like, he can't make public his contracts because he could probably get sued by EA for that. And official correspondence with EA PR representatives probably has a similar stipend to it. Like, this is, private communication between you and like us and you. If you release this anywhere else, then you're liable to be sued as well. So that's probably why he can't release that. But that's a rough one. He did say before this whole before he had to re-upload it, he did say that he did say directly, I had to re-edit my original review for Anthem because it was deemed too negative. And I guess on top of that, I've been added to the long list of blacklisted YouTubers. Yeah. So my question is, where do you guys side on this? It's easy to just like say, it's EA and they're shady and shit, so they probably are in the wrong. But do you guys think that this could be just simply, because EA is very strict on their branding, that this could be just a simple matter of him branding it incorrectly?
Before that, I want to know, this list of blacklisted people, is it larger or smaller than the list of closed studios?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Yeah,
what I'm gonna go with on there is, I think it's a little both. I think they use the branding deal to screw him over, but I don't think that is completely what it is. I think it is, a little bit of what he claims, but that is not their leverage point. I think they use branding as a leverage point, and that's the only story they told. So technically, they're right. They just didn't say all of what was going on from their point of view.
I do
That's
Go ahead, Rose.
that's my opinion too, because it's a little bit of both. It just, if they've got really strict rules about those watermarks, that probably they look for something to get him to take it down. And that just so happened to be it.
I'm with Rose on this one. I agree with Xaiphen, but the porn snatch throws me off. But yeah, it's definitely they were looking for a reason. If they just happened to find one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my thing is that I've now this is anecdotal, entirely anecdotal. But I do have some fellow YouTube creators that well, actually mostly Twitch streamers that I talk to, especially, and this is most key on there. There's a few of the guys I talk to from Europe that know some of the game changers from FIFA, and they've made it clear that EA has had no problem blacklisting content creators, the game changers in the FIFA side of it. So now that's anecdotal. That is not proof. So
Proof enough for me.
Huh?
Proof enough for me. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
In the chat, let's go.
Well, that's the thing is that where was that at?
Kevin, the jury, as soon as he hears one witness say, "I seen him, did it," all right, hang him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's EA and Activision, yes. And Rockstar's on that list too.
Yeah,
the thing. Rockstar, I don't praise Rockstar.
Yeah, the main thing is on there is that I think it's, and I was trying to find where they actually said that they don't scrounge for the content. Like they don't go out looking for people that that have infringed on their disclosure requirements on there. There it is. Rather than having our staff sweep for violation, EA enforces these requirements when it either finds or is made aware of a video that does not comply. In other words, they're not super hardcore about going out and finding the videos that that don't correctly brand, right? That's to me one of the key pieces on there is that I feel like that it showed up on their radar for having branded incorrectly because it was a negative review. Otherwise, they probably would have ignored it. Mm-hmm. Because it had some kind of disclosure branding on the video. I feel like that's the key on there, is that they probably would have covered their legal basis if he had said presented by EA Game Changers, because it's disclosing that there was some sort of compensation made just on a pure speculative basis.
Oh, totally. They would have left him alone if it was positive. Wouldn't have said shit.
Based upon the fact that almost all of the EA Game Changers I see out there, the thing is that it's not always massively positive coverage, but I noticed that it's at least generally amicable. It's they'll never directly say anything bad. In fact, I've seen sometimes where they painfully try to dodge saying what they really, or at least from my viewpoint, I'll see them like wording things in such a way where I'm like, you really don't like this game. You're just trying to not like burn bridges, which, to be fair, there are YouTube creators that are big enough to be influencers like that. It's a business. You can't, if you go around burning every corporate relationship that you have, like you give EA the finger and just throw dirt all over Anthem. Is Activision going to come to you and be like, hey, we want you to do some influencer advertising? No, because they saw what you did to EA and, Blizzard or whatever other Ubisoft, etc. It's going.
We ain't getting on none of these lists.
Epic probably would hire them and lock them exclusively to do negative reviews against Steam.
Only for a year. Only for a year, then you use Steam again.
just throw Epic right under the bus there.
Epic failure.
Yeah, that's really it. So my thing on here, my thing is that really what it comes down to, though, is that EA really, I think they should not really have the distinction. It should just say sponsored by EA, because the thing is that sponsorship doesn't necessarily mean you compensate them in actual money. Compensating them with hotel rooms, with flights, all of that stuff, like incidentals, that's still sponsoring.
Well, here's another thing: is usually sponsorships involve contracts that fall outside of the target of the sponsor. Like, for example, like say if you're a sponsored race car driver, you are not allowed to, when you're not being paid to race, you're not allowed to talk ill of your sponsor on your free time, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. A lot of sponsorships have those kind of stipulations and requirements. Freedom of speech restrictions.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and this is pretty standard, I think. But the key on there, I think, is disclosure. Is that presented by EA Game Changers? That whole thing, to me, just makes it seem like they're trying to not make it appear that these people might be biased. That's really what it is, because to me, a lot of it screams subversive advertising. They're trying to make it appear like these people are they're normal people, that we got their input for the game. They're not compensated. They're just normal people like you. You can trust what they say.
See, the professional is that when you have that relationship,
you have to put out some 2 and 3 star ratings here and there, just so the credibility.
It's the same reason IGN gives everyone at least 7.
I don't know, man. To be frankly honest, like, I've been seeing a lot of the game sites getting more and more harsh on a lot of these AAA games recently.
Probably because they're losing their audiences.
Well, I think
they go where money is, and that's not where the money is.
Well,
I mean, what I'm getting at too is, like, your audience will trash you, like we've called IGN for years ignorant gamer news. Because they give everything a 7, and when you see that, the IGN review or the GameSpot or whatever review giving them a 7 or an 8, and then the user reviews like a 2, you have to wonder, like, are they getting paid off? And that's why people say, "Oh yeah, these reviews are paid off." And
well, the thing is,
if they don't change that perception, they're done.
Well, the thing is I'm not actually of the opinion that they were directly paid off. Like, I don't think EA directly ever.
I think people think it.
Well, people think it, and here's the reason why I think that they were giving such favorable coverage. Number one, first of all, it's the threat of being blacklisted. I think is ever present in a lot of people. Like, for example, I think it was Bethesda. I think it was that blacklisted.
Kotaku.
No, Kotaku. Yeah.
Bethesda blacklisted Kotaku because they leaked Fallout 3 and then leaked Fallout 4.
Yeah, and
Ubisoft
then
was also blacklisted Kotaku because they leaked early Assassin's Creed stuff.
Well, who was it that blacklisted Total Biscuit? I can't remember who that was. Somebody.
Konami?
Oh, yeah, it was Konami.
Fuck Konami.
Yeah.
Konami blacklisted him and Jim Sterling. Obviously not Total Biscuit anymore, but, there's other reasons for that.
Total Biscuit was blacklisting people too. Like, he blacklisted Sega.
Yeah. But the thing is that a lot of it, as I feel like there's that threat of being blacklisted and not receiving, like, review copies of the game as a legitimate threat that these game companies hold over reviewers to provide more preferential coverage, which to me, that's a crock of shit, man. The whole point of the review is to be a consumer advocacy tool. It's meant to help the consumer, not the business. So by holding it over their head, that to me is just incredibly anti-consumer. But
how important is early access now at this point? Like, if you would have asked me 4 or 5 years ago, early access is a huge thing. Now I don't know. I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore. A lot of people are willing to wait, for day one reviews. They know, or if there's like a beta, they're going to watch their favorite YouTuber or their favorite Twitch streamer stream it. People are willing to wait. People are waiting a month for Angry Joe reviews.
Yeah.
People are willing
because they've been burned enough by bad products released on day one.
Well, I'm still having nightmares about the Master Chief Collection, dude.
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing. This is the other part of it, though, is that a lot of times, a lot of these the big corporate games that would come out were big name games that had at least a decent amount of people following the coverage on them. So by them giving a negative review, or a middling review, I should say, a middling review, nobody pays attention to, nobody clicks on, oh, they gave it a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. We don't care. You give it a 10 out of 10, you give it a 9.5 out of 10, people want to know why. You give it a 3 out of 10, people want to know why. Now, granted, I notice also a lot of them are getting away from numerical ratings, which I think is great because every single one of them translates the fucking numerical ratings differently. You know, some of them put a numerical 1 to 10 scale based on like letter grades, right? So you have like, you know, not in the 90s, 9.1 to 10 is an A, you know, like, so the lowest grade you would get is a 5 out of 10. That's failing, right? That's an F is 5 out of 10. And then everything above that, 7 out of 10, that's a C. That's an average game. That, and then you have other people that use the actual full gamut, and a average game is 5, 7 is above average, 3 is below average, etc. And that's where it gets a little confusing, is because everybody uses those numbers differently.
Right, and then you start talking to gamers. Gamers these days are so spoiled. If your game is at least an 8, they're not buying it, especially not day one. Like that's just how it is.
You are never going to hear me say that gamers are fucking spoiled whenever there's like the industry is this shit.
No. I'm saying there's a lot of shitty things going on in the industry. But in terms of games, there's a lot of amazing games out there. Oh,
no, there's a lot of good games. I misunderstood you.
And that's what I'm saying when I say we're spoiled. We're so spoiled by the good games that we're not going to play anything below an 8.
Yeah,
that's not a way to... It's not spoiled. It's we have it good now. And our generation of gamers, we know how the crap of games used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
Superman,
there's a lot of this generation that are playing mobile games that know how shitty games can be. But you know,
there's some mobile games that are good. I mean,
Nintendo.
I keep hearing there's mobile games, but
I wanted to play more than just 3 good games for a console or a system. Like, so you start playing the shitty games just because they are available.
Well, see, here's the thing: is that I think that depending on the price and what it's offering, I think there is a market for middling games. But I feel like I'm of the opinion that if you're going to be a game developer and publisher, you should produce the best product that you possibly can, market it as honestly as possible. That's the key that really fails nowadays. And then essentially, if your game sells well, boom, you got it. Take that money, reinvest it back into the company, make your improvements, make more games, whatever. If it doesn't sell well, get some honest feedback. What did people not like? Oh, they didn't like this system. They didn't like this thing, this character, whatever. Do some like blind surveys. Email out to people that purchased the game, get some surveys on it. Look at Steam reviews, etc., etc. And see what people are saying.
Look at
then
Steam
go back to the drawing board.
Sell your game on Steam.
That implies that one, your game is on Steam, and 2, that you allow user reviews. And this isn't just Epic. Origin doesn't allow them either.
No, Origin doesn't.
No.
And that comes into the marketing.
I don't believe Uplay does either.
I don't think so. A lot of those first party launchers, I don't think the Blizzard app does either.
I know the Windows 10 store does. Which
yes,
I love. The Windows
which I was actually kind of shocked about, because previously the best you could get off of the Microsoft, like on Xbox 360, is you might see a star rating, but you had no context as to what the fuck that even meant.
Well, you still don't see it on Xbox One. It doesn't appear on Xbox One unless it's
I haven't
on Xbox in a year, but I'm saying specifically on PC. If you go to the Windows 10 store, you see the ratings. You see them there. Of course, Steam has them. GOG has them.
Oh yeah.
Amazon has them.
Of course, Amazon's huge on reviews.
Yeah, I think you can even get them on Humble Bundle. I don't recall though.
Yeah, Humble's got them. Pretty much almost all the major stores has them. I would say, with the exception of the first-party big AAA publishers like Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, Epic. Yes, Epic is lumped into that group. Most people, by the way, don't realize, and we're going to get talking about Epic here in a minute. In fact, I'll go ahead and switch the story over here.
Epic is like a massive developer, even before Fortnite.
They
were the creators of Gears of War.
Yeah, the creator of Gears of War. They're the creators of the Unreal Engine. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like
they were Unreal Tournament too.
They were the multi-billion-dollar corporation before Fortnite,
and people act like there's some like little indie dev they just blew up out of nowhere. No,
yeah, and that's
been around for a minute, and they know what the fuck they're doing.
And that's where I go. Like, people are like, "Oh yeah, this little underdog is coming in, and trying to knock around the big juggernaut of Steam." I'm like, Epic is bigger than Valve. Sorry, I hate to burst your bubble. They're bigger than Valve.
I can't think of the last hit that Epic had since maybe Gears of War 3.
Uh-huh.
I'll give them that. I would say, maybe they're having a Derrick Rose moment where, they're MVP in 2011 and now all of a sudden you see a renaissance this year after them having a bunch of dud seasons. I'll give you that. Like, they're having a Derrick Rose moment, but they're not they're not the underdog by any means necessary.
Yeah, and that's largely kind of the way I look at it, is that a lot of people don't necessarily understand scope of things. Sometimes they kind of get this appearance because Tim Sweeney is carefully crafting this, and he's been for years crafting this narrative that Valve is some kind of big, giant, massive corporation that shadow controls the entire PC gaming platform.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much misinformation in that. I can't even get into it on this podcast.
How does Lord Gaben control these other companies? In fact, these other companies like EA got PO'd and started their own launcher to get away from Lord Gaben.
Didn't you hear? They have the quote unquote veto power, according to Tim Sweeney, where they can simply say no if another store wants to sell a game for less. I'm like,
or they just want to exist on PC.
Get the fuck out of here.
Okay, they have. Say they did actually have this veto power, which they don't. When the fuck have they used it?
It's all
like one of the. That's one of. That's in some ways. This is actually a complaint against Valve. This is both a bane and boon for Valve. Is their hands-off approach. That's a some people complain about it because they don't get involved when they feel things should be censored out.
You damned if you do, damned if you don't.
The fact that they don't get involved when they don't need to.
Yeah, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. All the news media is constantly on their shit for not curating their games because they have, and I love their mindset on here, is they're like, as long as the game isn't illegal, and I think Major and I think Rose and I have had like discussions about some of the greater area and a lot of the visual novels on Steam getting kind of banned on there, and not only sure on why. But aside from that, they're of the mentality of, if the content is legal, let it on there and people buy what they want. It's fucking revolutionary. Let the consumers choose what the fuck products they want to buy. Wow.
But that goes totally against what modern businesses tell us, and that is, you don't know what you want. I know what you want.
It's not just businesses. That's also the news media as well, is that you don't know what you want. My political ideology tells you what you want.
That's the thing, like
politics now. You can't even listen to a damn game review without getting into somebody's political ideologies.
Yep. And that's why we try to avoid them.
Yes, they've had a lot of success due to lack of available competition, but they've also had a lot of continued success of being surprisingly pro-consumer, even though a lot of people mistake them for not being that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things
that was before the Epic, narrative, trying to shit talk them and, color them in a different light. There was a lot of people that were, misinformed and thinking like Steam's a monopoly. They're trying to control it. They're not trying to do anything. They're just doing a good job, and people like what they're doing.
A lot of people.
It's like Google. Google isn't a monopoly. Not in the sense that there aren't competitors to Google. It's just Google does it better than a lot of people.
The thing is that so Google is a little bit trickier because they've kind of kept things. I'm not entirely certain of all of the good and or bad that Google potentially does.
Well, I'm not saying Google is good or bad, but I'm saying in the same sense that Steam isn't a monopoly, neither is Google. Google has competitors. Google wasn't the first to do the search engine. I'm talking specifically
but
search engine.
I want to give you
Google
a
did a better
contrast to
job
that,
than everyone else.
Let me give you a contrast to that, Kev, though. Are you going to refuse to buy from Humble Bundle just because Steam is the one you're familiar with?
No, I love Humble Bundle.
Exactly.
Now, well, the thing is,
if you're not sure about a game, are you going to fucking Bing it?
Because that's really the only fucking competitor for Google out there, except for
like
secure
Yahoo
searches.
And all those other ones, oh sure, they still exist, but nobody fucking uses that shit anymore. And the only reason anybody uses alternative search engines if it's baked into a browser or some service they use, or it gets surreptitiously transferred onto their system by something that they install. Otherwise, people lean on Google, and that's mostly because all they know. And Google is a pretty damn good search engine, but they're also not trying to promote competition in any way, shape, or form. They're trying to shut it down.
But you're making my point for me, Xaiphen. Google made a better service. That's the only point I was making. Now, Google's anti-competitive where Steam is, and I'm not saying it's a perfect one-to-one. I'm just saying Google made a great product, and everybody else
has shown many examples of promoting competition, like Humble Bundle, where they support Humble Bundles in ways that is financially not good for them. Whereas Google does not do shit like that.
Yeah, the thing is,
it was perfect.
Oh no,
I'm just pointing out the contrast between the two.
Yeah, I'm jury's still out on Google. Like, they had that mantra of do no evil thing, but I mean, I've seen some hit or miss stories on them, so I'm not gonna.
You guys made it way deeper than I did.
Yeah,
I'm Google made a machine right now. Once they hit that too big to fail mark, I consider them not trustworthy as far as like helping out the people.
Yeah,
they're not in favor of the people; they're in favor of the dollar.
But all I was saying was that the search engine itself was a superior product. It wasn't the first search engine. It became the best, most known over time.
Well, here's the thing: the reason why Google is the best search engine available right now is because we don't really have a market that allows competitors to really grow in that market. And I don't want to get too deep into that part, but a lot of it is just simply because you can't get competition. If you're not a tech giant like Microsoft, who Microsoft has to pull an Epic Games and try to force people to use Bing in order to people do it. And all that has done is piss people off. That's why people hate Bing.
It's actually a better search engine.
No, it's not. It's horrible. But the thing is that I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's not really a market that promotes a lot of competition, so we have no idea if Google's the best search engine out there. It's just the best of what we know, and that's not necessarily the same thing. Anyway, let's rein it in here. Let's get it back to the story here.
I won't get back to my point because y'all took my point and just threw it off to the side. What I was saying is Google came along and made a better product before Bing was in the picture.
Yeah,
we're talking about like Lycos and Metacrawler and Yahoo and like 5-10 other search engines that I can't think about.
Yeah,
Google came along and made a better product, and that's what I was saying.
Yeah, fair enough. But to get onto the story on here, on this the discussion of Epic on there, we've been discussing a lot of Epic's buying to exclude Steam from competition on there. One of the narrative spins that Tim Sweeney has been trying to push on this front is that the reason why they don't have reviews on Epic Game Store is because users like to review bomb games. Which of course the reason why they do that is because it's one of the few tools as a consumer they have to tell a developer and publisher that they don't like what the fuck they're doing because the company doesn't listen to them otherwise. Mm-hmm. That said, what's kind of funny is whenever this gets completely contradicted against Tim Sweeney's narrative on review bombing, when the people that pre-ordered Metro Exodus are reverse review bombing Metro Exodus on Steam. They're bombing it with a bunch of positive reviews, but they're like backhanded compliments because
the best part.
They're like when you see some of these, it's like recommended 26 hours on record. I truly hope Epic Game Store fails.
Yeah.
Like they're like the positive reviews, bunch of positive reviews for the game. It's rated overall as very positive. And half the reviews are fuck Epic Game Store.
Well, someone did assy art of middle fingers.
Yeah.
Fuck Epic. And it's just like, that. If you are making that much effort into these reviews, that says something.
Yeah.
I mean, people make that effort into reviews all the time. But, yeah, it says a lot that they're just coming out and just basically saying, fuck Epic, even through their Steam reviews. Like, but the game is good. Don't blame the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's...
Like, well, goddamn.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, you know, like essentially Epic claims that they're eventually going to add. Going back to my Anthem thing, by the way, don't buy a game based upon the promise of what that game might be in 6 months. Same thing with the Epic Game Store. They claim that they're going to eventually add in some kind of review system. Except, of course, it's going to be opt-in by developers. In other words,
and
by default.
Everybody knows how well that works out with No Man's Lie.
Yeah, it's like, of course they're not going to, if they are given a choice, they are not going to put in reviews because then that blinds the consumers to making an informed purchase. Why would they?
Yeah. I mean, you know, or they'll just go to IGN and look first, but people aren't going to do that because they're just, I can't think of the word where they just go and they're impulsive. They just go and they do things.
Yep, and then they justify it afterwards. What oftentimes people do.
Damage control.
Well, it could be both. I mean, depends. But what a lot of people do, and this has been psychologically proven over and over again, is that people most often buy first, then justify the purchase. And when I say justify, I don't necessarily mean like negatively, like it wasn't what they wanted, and then they have to go and justify it afterwards. No, I just mean like as in. They don't often have a need for the product they're buying. They have to invent one after they buy it. Like, you know, like, I see a Bluetooth speaker at Walmart at the checkout line. And I just buy it, just throw it on thing, buy it, whatever. And then afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I totally needed this for this trip I'm going on. And then you try to like force situations where you have to use that Bluetooth speaker even though you have no reason for it. That's the kind of mentality I'm talking about when I say justifying the purchase, is that you don't actually buy it with any intention of actually wanting the product. You just buy it impulsively and then come up with reasons after the fact why you needed to buy it.
And that's, we might be talking about Razer. Just
no. The thing is that with in the case of Epic on there, by having blinded reviews on there, just like on Origin, just like on Uplay, just like on the Blizzard app, not having those reviews up there, that increases the odds that someone will make an impulsive purchase and then, you know, try to justify it after the fact. Especially since a lot of the review policies for a lot of these stores are absolute garbage. And that includes fucking Steam, by the way. I'm not going to say that Steam has a good return policy. Theirs is just as shit. The only one that has a pretty good one is GOG. Like
GOG's is a little too good, let's be honest.
Like,
30 days, no questions asked on the non-DRM platform.
We're not going to verify that you actually uninstalled the product.
Well, see here, I that part's a little weird to me, but I mean, it's not like they can have a method of of checking to see if you uninstalled it without
exactly
putting DRM
the
in there.
DRM free policy. They can't enforce it. They just go on good faith, which they offer in return.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they trust the consumer enough to not be shady, which I'm assuming there's people out there that are scummy individuals that have taken advantage of that generosity. But the truth is that I'd imagine the majority of people that have actually gotten a return on a game probably have uninstalled the game because they legitimately don't want it. And that's the thing, is that you go to a store. If I buy something from a store or whatever, like I buy a table from a store, get it home and it sits crooked, or I don't like the way it looks or whatever, I can take it back to the store 2 weeks later and say, hey, I bought this table, got it set up, here's my receipt for it. I just want to return it. And guess what? The store will do one of two things, depending on if they're Best Buy or not. They'll either give you your money back, or they'll give you in-store credit. I think we know which one Best Buy is there. Now, if it was GameStop, of course, they would not give you
a nickel.
They give you $1 back and say, yeah, well, we can give you $1 for that game that you just bought at $60 literally 5 minutes ago, and then came back in here and said you wanted a refund. People wonder why GameSpot's going out of business.
GameStop can't trade themselves in, and it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to go to the stock exchange and say, hey, can people invest in our company? And someone was
they offered them $3.
Yeah, I'll give you $3 for it.
10% discount.
I'll give you $3 in some in-store credit. But no, that's my thing, is that refund policies are garbage. So having that blinded review policy, to me, really is the worst part of it, because you go to a game on Steam and you see mostly negative, that red mostly negative, you're not going to go in there and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy that game. No, that's an instant, like, oh, I'm skipping this.
That's a do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Most people see that mostly negative flag, or just like any sort of negative, hell, if they see mixed, they see mixed, and they're moving on. They want to see, and it's positive even sometimes doesn't even get enough on there. Although that's going to get more sales than anything. They want to see overwhelmingly positive games
in
order
to
to
see
buy them.
What the reviews are, because a lot of times I see people's opinions converse to mine, or I look at a product from a very specific point, so I want a review on what that particular capability is. And if I just see mostly negative, mostly positive, they can be looking at something that I don't give two flying fucks about. So I will dig through the reviews to find one that is detailed enough to hit that point, whether it's good or bad, what that feature that I am actually intending. Now, some products is the overall thing, and overall reviews do make more of a difference, but a lot of times I'm nitpicky.
That's what I'm like too. And that's the thing, like, if you research this shit and aren't a normal consumer, that mostly negative, that mix doesn't scare you away. I mean, I've bought some mostly negative games and absolutely loved.
There's been, and a lot of times, usually in my case, of if I see like something's mixed or mostly negative or whatever, oftentimes I might, out of curiosity, because I'm not usually buying them, but I might go and look at why. And there might be a couple of instances, like, as mentioned, where you go in and you look at the reviews, and the mixed status comes from reviews when the game first launched and it was absolute garbage, and now it's a year later and they fixed all of those, and all of the recent reviews are positive.
Right, that's why I like when they have the recent versus old.
Yeah, which
I spend more time looking at recent, unless I see it's like now it's mostly negative, but before it was mixed or it was really positive overall. I'm like, okay, they probably got
an update that broke the game, or an update that ultimately fixed a broken game. That sort of thing can change.
Yeah,
and that also goes toward the idea of sometimes you just have to try it yourself. For me, the refund policy is more important than anything else, because I want to test the product and see how I feel about it. Because like you were saying, I think you're really picky about things, so am I. I've seen games. I'm going to use State of Decay 2 as an example. I love both State of Decay games. I think they're fun. I think they're great games, lots of fun. people trashed State of Decay 2 because it came out buggy as shit. Okay, it was a $30 title. Obviously, it didn't get the TLC it needed. I'm pretty sure a year later, I haven't played in a little while, but I'm pretty sure bugs.
Well, when it comes to software, something that is very easy solution to that is the demo mode. The demo, like back in the day where demos came on disc.
Yeah,
I remember.
Get those demo discs, man.
On my PlayStation, on my original PlayStation.
I remember the PlayStation demo packs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
I love the fuck out of those. And sometimes I wasn't able to afford the game, so I'd overplay the demo of like, this sucks. There's I only got 5 minutes of gameplay here. I really want the game, but I ain't got the money for it. So I'm just going to keep playing this demo.
I'm a broke kid, so I just play the demo disc. And this is the reason why they don't do demo discs anymore, because they realize that there are people that do that. They just want a quick taste.
But that's the thing, is they're not losing money on that because, I couldn't afford the shit at all. So whether or not they had the demo disc,
but you have to look at it from their perspective.
Had the money,
it's not that you're losing money; it's that they're not gaining money. You have to look at it about their perspective. It's not about loss. It's about what do I get? What do I get if I do this? If I can leave people in the dark, this is why I say kind of like early access isn't even very important, because people are pre-ordering games regardless. They're pre-ordering off of trailers. So
on PlayStation, there's
I'm
going to say, like, in PlayStation, there's at least a half a dozen games in which I purchased the game only because I got a chance to play it first.
Yep.
Right.
It's a demo or borrowed from somebody else.
Right, but what I'm saying is you have a lot more self-control than a lot of other people do as well. That's kind of the point I'm making. The average consumer, they're buying it off of trailers. They're buying it off of, IGN said it was amazing. No matter how ignorant the rest of us say IGN is. They're just like, this looks cool. I have the money for it. I'm going to buy it. And most people aren't necessarily buying the game. I guess a lot of people are pre-ordering and buying games, in that launch window, 2 weeks, whenever payday hits. And hopefully the bugs are fixed, or average Joe that's not following gaming news doesn't know, hey, the game is shit until after they get it. And then we have that where we're going to justify our purchases. I paid $60 for this motherfucker. I can't return. I'm gonna play it like it's dope anyway.
Yeah, there's one mistake I made,
and that's the majority of Anthem players right now.
Spectrum. There was a game I bought based off of a trailer. There's a game I bought based off of a trailer, which now a trailer can make me interested, but it sure as fuck won't buy a game off of a trailer ever again. And I shouldn't have done it to begin with, but I didn't think any better of it. And I don't know, you didn't buy the game, but you might have been willing to just because of how impressive the trailer was. Deus Ex Machina, or Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
One of those Deus Ex games. But the trailer was just so fucking emotionally impressive. And I had means, motive, and opportunity. I bought the fucking game and was slightly disappointed by how it played out.
Yeah,
the trailer made it look a lot better. I think Mankind Divided was the newer one.
Yeah,
it is Mankind Divided. That's the newest.
Human Revolution is largely regarded
that's the one.
That's the one that's generally regarded as a pretty good game. Mankind Divided is the one that's...
It's not a bad game in any way, it has some bad points to it, but it was a good game. It was a good game to play. It was not what the trailer made it seem like to be. That's the issue that I had with it. And, it was a lot more... What?
Sounds like Halo 5.
Yeah, probably. But the trailer made a lot more impression of this is going to be an epic game, not an epic game. Yeah, but it was a good game. It was not a great game.
Yeah. The thing is that there's been a lot of games that have some pretty damn good trailers behind them. In some way, shape, or form, really creative and well done. Like
Anthem.
No.
I was going to say the Anthem trailer's nice, but
no. I'm thinking some of the highlights on there. I think it was Gears of War 2 or 3 that had that one with the goddamn, what's the name of that song? The one from Donnie Darko. All around the world I see familiar faces, worn out places.
Oh, yeah.
That trailer, when I saw that, I was like, damn. Whew. I got misty watching that. And that was just Gears of War. And I was like, but that's a fucking good trailer. That's damn. That can Mad World. That's the one. Yes, Mad World. And that was actually a really, really well done trailer, like, and really emotional, it kind of hit in an aspect that a lot of people don't think of when they think of Gears of War. Like, it's a pretty fucking depressing world that they're in. But
like I get to shoot, hordes of, shit, blood, carnage. Like they're in a fucked life.
Yeah. But the other aspect of that is, you also have ones that do a slightly more lighthearted thing. Like, I'm all about the Outer Worlds right now. A lot of people know that already. I'm not hyped. I'm very interested in what that game's like, the developing news around that game, because it's definitely like first of all, Obsidian. They're one of my bros right up there, like Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, like KOTOR 2. Like I'm going back. Like I've been a fan of Obsidian for quite a long time.
We can't talk about Obsidian without talking about New Vegas.
Yeah, New Vegas. No, New Vegas too. Yeah, New Vegas, KOTOR 2. Like, I made the joke that Obsidian pretty much takes game like properties from other people and makes them better.
I will say the one exception. I will say I play both of the South Park games, the recent ones. The Stick of Truth is amazing. Mm-hmm. The Fractured Butthole, I think, is a little bit better.
Well, and that's good though. The Fractured Butthole is actually the sequel, so it should improve upon what the original one did.
It surprised me because Ubisoft actually, I believe it was, that just took over the whole production of the game.
Yeah.
Where the original one was Obsidian.
To be fair, Ubisoft gets a lot of shit because of their monetization practices, which, to be honest with you, are pretty fucking garbage. It's their DRM.
I'm more annoyed by their DRM.
Their DRM and their 26 different launch versions and their microtransactions in paid games, etc. AAA shit.
And every game is basically Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, but the thing is that for the most part, their production quality is pretty solid for a lot of their games. I'll give them credit for that. You play Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Assassin's Creed Origin, you play Watch Dogs 2, you play Wildlands. For the most part, they feel like pretty enjoyable, if mindless games.
Yeah.
I'm to be fair, I couldn't get too deep into Watch Dogs 2 because I got bored, because I was like, I just got done playing Wildlands. This is the same thing over again. It's not.
I don't even think that makes a difference. Like, I played, I loved the original Watch Dog. I can't.
Oh, the downgrade. The downgrade.
What do you mean? The downgraded original one.
You don't remember the Watch Dogs, like what they showed at the E3 trailer?
Trailers.
Yeah.
So by the time I actually saw the E3 footage for the original, the model's out for the E3 footage, so I just modded it.
Yep. But no, the thing is that I give them credit there. They actually put out pretty solid, nothing spectacular, but they're pretty solid games. So if they took over production of something like, South Park, I mean, I don't see it as being like, it's not going to be like EA taking over production. Or Activision taking over production.
Well, see, I've said this for years, and I actually used to feel this way, not so much anymore. Of the big three, EA has my favorite property. They used to name my favorite games. Not a lot of it, they just have my favorite IPs. Like Dragon Age, like Mass Effect, Titanfall.
And you know what? And you know what? They're going to fucking take that shit and use it against you. Because we all know that fucking Dragon Age 4 is going to be a goddamn live service game with microtransactions. I'm calling it now.
Oh, it is.
I think they've already confirmed that.
Did they really? Yeah. Why am I not surprised? Because the thing is that
I hope that they learn from Inquisition.
No, they won't. They're going to go a step further down the fucking rabbit hole, because you got to realize BioWare today is not the BioWare of previous to 2009. Almost all of the creative minds that brought us Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, Baldur's Gate, the original Mass Effect, the original Dragon Age, almost all those people are gone.
I agree with you, but that's not the point I'm making. That wasn't the point I'm making. What I'm saying is, my beef with Dragon Age Inquisition, besides it being the PSA and transgender people, that was annoying.
Yeah.
Was the way they force that open world into there, and I don't think they do that well.
They don't.
When you got to when you got to the DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, it seems like they realized where they fucked up,
and they
went
railed
back to the basics. And the DLC for Inquisition is exquisite.
Yeah, and Trespasser, well, the Descent and Trespasser specifically are the two, in my opinion, best stories told in that game. Because guess what? It's on rails essentially, not really on rails, but you're corridored in. You have one linear path from beginning to end on those, and I think
that's what BioWare does so well.
Exactly.
And I wanted to be more like Trespasser. Like if you can make Dragon Age 4 like more like Trespasser, I'll be a very happy camper. But like I'm not pre-ordering Dragon Age 4.
Oh hell no!
I'm not pre-ordering anything.
Don't do it. Don't pre-order.
No.
The thing is, the problem I have is that as Andromeda proved, though, that one came out after Inquisition, and the thing is it was worse because not only did they not have a Trespasser to course correct, but it's pretty much they forced the open world to the detriment of everything else. Because open world, and I made this comment. I wrote I think like a Tumblr blog post like in 2016, previous to Andromeda coming out, talking about how open worlds are often the times come as an enemy of like cohesive like narrative storytelling, right? Whereas you have the peregrination style of storytelling, kind of like Dark Souls or kind of like Elder Scrolls, which lend themselves well to open worlds, where the storytelling is more of a discovery aspect. You're wandering around and the story is just you experiencing the world. While Elder Scrolls have a narrative of sorts, there's no... Let's be honest, people don't play it for the narratives.
The narrative is
No.
like 50% lore that you have to discover by exploring the world.
Yeah.
Right. I think Fallout is actually a better example of that than Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Because Fallout literally each Fallout is about the world that you're in.
Well,
That's why I always talk about like the most interesting part about a Fallout game is the location.
Well, no, I mean, like the thing is I think that it's a kind of Bethesda Game Studios kind of signature style, from my viewpoint, is that, and you notice that Elder Scrolls games, now Oblivion aside, and to be honest with you, Oblivion had probably the best narrative, in my opinion, of the Elder Scrolls games, but they tend to be more about the region in which you are located in the recent games. I should say Elder Scrolls 2 and forward. There was more of a focus put on the region you were in as opposed to the narrative that was occurring. Like there's always a setup, there's always some kind of thing, but hell, you start out Morrowind, there's no real impetus for any kind of overarching narrative. It's just kind of like, in fact, your main quest contact at one point in time tells you to get the fuck off the main quest and go just explore a bit.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I thought was great.
I got lost and never completed the main quest for a while because of that.
Yeah, but the thing is that
I knew every nook and cranny of this place. Oh yeah, there's some kind of demigod that I have to kill. I'll get around to that.
Well, no, the thing is that at that point in time, there was no kind of inkling that there was any urgency or any important event happening. It was just kind of like, hey, we want to set up here. We want you to be a courier, essentially. We want you to contact some people and blah, 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 do this and that. There was no real, like, you had no knowledge that you were anything special. Well, except for the opening intro of, uncertain person being an uncertain sign, whatever the fuck it was. The point is that lends to an open world very well. When there's no urgency, you can just casually kind of, wander around. Peregrination, as I call it. Just the kind of the meandering exploration storytelling, which Elder Scrolls does pretty well. I think Skyrim was the weakest example of that because whatever. But the point is that that's a good way to do open world storytelling. There's a similar way in which Dark Souls does it as well, where there's no real specific story you're following. It's just kind of like you're wandering around and doing stuff. Whereas whereas BioWare, they're very much into this cinematic, narrative-driven, strong emotional, cutscenes and that sort of thing, and really in-depth dialogue. And it's like, no, we're going to do open world, but that's going to dilute your experience.
Right? You have to understand what you're good at. Now,
if
what I would
you're
love
trying
to see
to do
them
a
do,
strong linear narrative, throwing that into an open world, that just kind of fucks it over.
right now, I understand. They might not want to do the hubs, they might all that, but do something like I think God of War got it right with the way God of War did its level design, or the more recent Tomb Raider games also get it right, where it's especially Tomb Raider 2013. It's not it's not an open world. It's a very linear world, but it feels very open. You can backtrack to everywhere and anywhere you want to go. And everything is pretty much open, or you get the skills to eventually get to that area. And I think BioWare, if they could figure out a way to make that kind of level design work, I think that would be good for them going forward. That way you're not still you're getting away from the hub areas, which it sounds like they want to get away from, but you're not going full on open world.
Well, the thing is one of the things I think is a great compromise between open world, but also still having allowing for their kind of their better, stronger narrative design. Honestly, SOTOR seems like it's a pretty good compromise because they have pretty big open worlds because it's an MMO. Like each planet is a pretty big map, and there's a lot of fetch quests because it's an MMO, but overall, the actual narrative design that you're doing in those games is actually still pretty compelling. Like the storytelling in the at least the initial character arcs, the first segment of the game you go through with a character, not talking about the post-launch stories where all of the classes got pretty much thrown together into one storyline, more or less going on the initial class stories. That is actually some of the best storytelling in a lot of recent games that BioWare has done. Like if you compare it to Andromeda, to Anthem, to Inquisition, it's pretty strong. Like I would say that it's behind Trespasser, but it's in front of base Inquisition. It's in front of the entirety of Andromeda, and miles in front of fucking Anthem. And that's,
is it really hard to be ahead of Anthem or Andromeda?
Like,
well,
not really.
Andromeda had an amazing premise that they just didn't execute well.
It's
I just don't give a damn about what's going on in Anthem.
Like, well, Anthem, that's generally the whole game, is that you have no emotional connection to that game at all, and I think that's really what kind of hurts it. At the same time, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the early game in Warframe, but for fuck's sake, at least Warframe gives you some kind of an emotional connection when it gives you this kind of villainy bad guy right off the bat that you can be like, oh, he's trying to hurt me. Like, at least you get some kind of emotional impetus there. That Anthem never really gives you. It's like, oh, you guys were once war heroes and now you've fallen from grace. It's like, okay, I just want to drink beer and sit on my ass all day then, because that's I'm depressed.
Like, I was literally like, just shut up and let me fly my Iron Man suit.
Exactly. It's like
all the story things. Shut up and let me be Iron Man.
Like a billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. Let me be that. I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Right. And with BioWare, that's not their strong suit. Like, and then if you're going to do that, you better nail it. And I don't feel like they nailed it.
I don't know if I was the only one thinking of this. You climb into, you get into those javelins, and you see that point of view of the yellowed padding in there, and I'm wondering.
That was rock paper shotgun made mention of the.
Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody did think of that.
The hygienic aspect of
that was the video I shared. Rock paper shotgun tore them a new one, but the review was hilarious.
Yeah, it's
I thought of that before, but I never really thought to say anything about it until they made a point of that. Like, oh yeah,
can we just give just a shout out to Rock Paper Shotgun? Because I don't know of very many PC games publications, and then on top of that, to be an actual good one. Rock, Paper, Shotgun is actually really good, and they don't get nearly enough credit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely do a better job than a lot of them out there. But to rein it in, as we kind of meandered along on talking about random rabbit holes, let's quickly kind of dive into our last story on here, and this one is fascinating to me, and I feel like as our resident material grinding expert here, I'm gonna let Rose talk about this one a bit more, of the Fallout 76 player that was banned for having too many materials.
For too much ammo.
The story goes that one of the few Fallout 76 players that has put any time in the game, something about 900 hours, basically no-lifing this game, collected hundreds of thousands of ammunition, puts it everywhere that he can so new players can, get some nice free ammo, has been banned because his inventory was too full and they think that he was using some exploit that was allowing him to get vast amounts of ammo.
Now, what's funny there is he was able to prove also that he was not using vast amounts or using any glitch to get these vast amount of ammo. He was just trading between his multiple characters.
Well, and to be fair, what he suspects, the reason why he suspects he got reported on it is because he had a second account. I don't know if he was necessarily just giving away ammo to new players. What it was is he had an alt account that was a level 2 character. Like his main is like, I don't know, something like a level 300 or something like crazy high. And he had an alt account that was level 2, like, super newbie. And he was putting stuff in a drop to put it out there. Whenever he did that, other people seeing a level 2 character pick up stuff dropped from a super high, crazy high level 1, they might think it's suspicious, right? They might think that it's something, untoward's going on, and report it to Bethesda. Bethesda looks at the account, sees he's got hundreds of thousands of ammo on there, and he's like, oh, this is a duper, ban him. And I think that the main problem on there is that he just generally, I don't think they have a good way of detecting the people that are exploiting. Or in that case, we may not have all of the information on here. I do know that the main key on there is that he was using the Bandolier perk card, which reduces ammo weight by 90%. And after getting that, he went on like a rampage of trying to get all of the ammo he possibly could. And that's really kind of what made the difference for it there. So in general, though, I think that, again, a lot of this comes down to he said, she said stuff. We don't know what Bethesda sees on here because, of course, transparency. Why would we do that? I guess my main question on there is that, what do you guys think that it's literally that they just looked at his ammo counts and said, oh, you've got too much ammo, we gotta ban you because you're obviously duping?
I think they did jump to some conclusions. I don't think that they really looked that deep into it because it's kind of obvious. You're level 2. Seems like an easy layup. Level 2, you have thousands of ammo. I'm like a level 10 in 76. And I still feel like I'm like searching for ammo like I was playing Resident Evil. So,
yeah.
So I'm like, I get it. I get it from Bethesda's point of view. But what happened to due diligence?
Yeah, that's a big problem right there. What I remember was that the flag system, you flag a player, they're not like, say, if you personally see something that somebody might be doing, you flag it so that it can be researched, so somebody can look into it, can evaluate and say, hey, is this person hacking into this game, or is it just a bug? Are they actually capitalizing on a known glitch in a way instead of trying to report the glitch, so on and so forth, depending on if it actually violates the toss or not.
Yeah. Now, I mean, but at the same time, too, think about the world we live in. We're all guilty until proven innocent, anyway.
Yeah, and that's what Lapisulia in chat said: is the guilty until proven innocent. Yeah. And I think a lot of times that's, and unfortunately, this is a PR disaster. Someone that dropped 900 hours into the game is obviously a major protractor of the game. They're going to be your type that is going to be promoting the game to everybody they talk to, right? Those are like, oh, Fallout 76 is amazing. This is a game you got to play. That's one of your biggest forms of fucking advertisement, is that you know, like
that word of mouth.
Word of mouth advertising. And this guy is one of the ones that's going to be broadcasting that shit, and you just pretty much kick him in his ass out the game because he played the game too much. Like
9 hours a day.
Like, that's, for fuck's sake, 900 hours.
Turn the console off right now. You've been playing too long.
900 hours in a couple of months. Dude's been cranking through that game. Like, shit.
Insane.
I have 1,000 hours in Dragon Age Inquisition, and I played that a lot. I have 1,300 hours in Warframe. I've played that a lot. I know Xaiphen's got more in Warframe. But
that's over 4 years. I've got throw for 3,000 hours over 4 years, not 2 months.
Exactly.
I mean, shit, 2 fucking months.
Exactly. Like, and that's really, really where I'm at. Is I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, that's a lot of hours for a couple of months. And when Rose said no lifing it, that's no life.
I mean, I did that shit in EVE Online. I was to the point where I was producing super capital ships at the end of, I think it was 6 months. I was actually getting contracts for that shit, and I would mine with 10 characters, which is allowed, just to fill these contracts. And I would be spending money.
It's not a game you play casually.
No, it really isn't.
You can't play.
The game I don't play casually, Total War, and it doesn't require that grind.
Like, they don't tell you, you don't play EVE casually.
No, you really don't. That's usually the game I play when I'm in between jobs or just have nothing to do in my life anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot of I mean, MMOs in general tend to lend themselves well to those kind of like no life scenarios. Another one I know a lot of, I remember people like literally, as I was talking to Rose, like even in Warframe, you get people that grind prime parts, grind mod cards and that sort of thing, and then they literally have a storefront they just sit in all day.
They make an in-game living off of that, and despite the hours I put into the game, that is not something I've ever cared to do.
It takes a certain, there's a certain mentality, as I call it, the vendor personality, that you find them in every MMO game. They're the ones that are crafting shit or just grinding stuff just to resell it. They're.
At least she admits it.
Major's done some of that in Warframe. I know that. Like he sold some big ticket items that he's grinded out to get a hold of.
Oh yeah,
Destiny won't let us do it.
Yeah, and that's the major thing is that like major kind of relied on those big ticket items, and that's its thing. To Mythic over on Mixer, thanks a lot for the compliment, man. We will keep up the good work. In any case, I think a lot of it is if you are, you really should keep an eye on this. Now, to be fair, from what I remember when I saw this on Reddit, a Bethesda community manager did respond to the person and said, "Hey, send us a ticket and then send me the ticket number afterwards because we want to take a look at this." The problem is that damage is done. I mean, hell, with Fallout 76, the damage is already done.
Mitigate the damage. They're trying to control the damage, and it's too late. The damage is done. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's Fallout 76. The damage was done the day it released.
The damage was done the day they revealed it was a multiplayer game.
Yeah, true. I mean,
the minute they said, "Oh, it's Fallout multiplayer," it's PvP, it's survival. Oh, fuck this game.
Fallout 76 is a game where the house is on fire and they're only trying to put out the fire with fire extinguishers.
Fire extinguishers? You're being generous. They're out there with gasoline. they're out there with the little gasoline for the barbecue. Just throw it in the fire. Why won't it go out?
Okay, maybe, yeah.
I heard that if you throw oil on fire, it will put the fire out.
No, he's nothing with the lighter fluid. Mom, please,
Hold on,
stop
wait.
burning.
No, it's a
They
grease
don't-
fire, and they're putting it out with water.
Yeah.
There we
They're
go.
putting it out with vodka.
Yeah,
Everclear.
yeah. The thing is, though, is that Xaiphen and I have some stories about Everclear, but
Do I want to know?
So does my
You know what?
fiance.
It did require a hospital trip when they get caught on fire, so you know.
I
Yeah.
gotta hear these stories.
When there is 3 different flammability warnings on your drink of choice, you might want to choose differently.
that is I can confirm that is 100% true. You really should rethink your life.
That is
I mean,
a drink
your
you do surgery with.
that's the drink whenever you want to sterilize the person, but then also sterilize your brain cells so you can kill the person without any regret.
So the question is, Mort, how many shots did you take?
One was enough.
The thing is Everclear was not the worst night I've had. I tell you what, Everclear has nothing on rakia, but that's anytime a Croatian person comes up to you and says, "Here, you drink this. My grandfather made this." Never do that. Never, ever fucking do this.
Getting into mixed chemicals. Everclear has that purity behind it of like, this is straight alcohol, dude. Like, there's 5% of probably water in here.
Exactly.
It could be gasoline, but it's 95% alcohol by volume. That's as strong as you get. It's pure. Whereas you get that random Eastern European stuff, you don't know what the fuck is in there.
I mean, Punchin is pretty nasty Irish shit. But the thing is Punchin, the random shit that might be in there is peat moss. Let's be honest. It's fucking peat. That's always what's the filler shit in there. With Eastern European stuff, it might be nuclear waste. It might be, like, I don't know, disposed of like hospital chemicals. You really never know.
Cocaine, heroin, or opium, nuclear waste, any of that stuff, or a mix of all of them.
And they just know how to have a good time.
Don't worry about it, just drink.
Hey, don't pick on my Croatian friends. They just know how to have a good time.
Oh yeah. No, and the best thing about it was, of course, at the same time I'm doing those shots, which, by the way, after the fact, I found out that you're not supposed to take shots of rakia. That said, his sister, who was the host of the party, was also making the vodka cranberries that as the night went on, it became less vodka cranberry and more vodka with just a couple drops of cranberry in there.
Why waste the cranberries at this point?
Yeah, like, let's just drink whole cups
we're
of...
running low on cranberries, but we have plenty of vodka.
Yeah, just make this entirely vodka. I think there might have been a tiny splash just for a little color. We're not really trying to dilute it at this point. We know that we're drunk. And that was a fun night. I feel like that all of the pores on my face were throwing up just as much as my mouth was, because I could feel every pore on my face burning. By the way, if you ever want to know what alcohol poisoning feels like and still be conscious enough to remember it, that is my curse. That's the reason why I don't drink very much anymore. Because I don't get the benefit of blacking out like some people do. Anyway,
I never had that happen.
Yeah, that's my curse. People are like, "Oh, I blacked out and some crazy shit happened." Like The Hangover, woke up and there's a fucking tiger in the room, and I'm like, I wish that happened to me so many times. But no, I get to remember.
Stay awake and suffer.
I get to remember all of it in very vivid detail, and I wake up in the morning like, why did I? Anyway, and you know what? All of those regrets, not even on par with the amount of regret that Bethesda has to feel for Fallout 76. That's how you bring the story back around.
You think Bethesda regrets Fallout 76? They regret that it's getting bad PR. They don't regret what they did.
Oh, no. They regret that it didn't sell well. And it's a regret nonetheless. It's a lot more regret.
They did is they went over to Microsoft and they bought up rights to a specific character, the Prophet Regret. Yeah, that was a little bit of a bad joke. I'm going to stay away from that one.
Regret.
I'm just waiting for them to come out with the equivalent to horse armor. Like maybe they're going to make dog armor.
The thing is that So here's the thing. In context, horse armor has been normalized in the video game space now. Like,
actually the horse armor is in the loot box. And you can get in like 6 different colors.
Well, not just loot boxes. I mean, direct buy transactions as well. Like cosmetics are a mainstay in games nowadays. Back in 2006 when Oblivion came out, that shit was outrageous. Was it like $3 or $5 for a cosmetic? Now you're paying $12 for a fucking cosmetic in some cases. And nobody fucking bats an eye.
Well, yeah, and remember 2006 we were like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Now we're like, as long as it's cosmetic, I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's like as long as it's horse armor, it's okay.
Yeah,
and I'm
want to grind 400 hours to unlock Darth Vader. That's what really turned that shit upside down. That honestly, that was the breaking point. Grind 400 hours, or pay $400 to get Darth Vader. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Don't deny people their fucking Darth Vader.
The thing
it's
is,
all what happened with Battlefront 2 when you tried to deny Darth Vader.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
The thing is that you don't fuck with Darth Vader. That's is the moral of this podcast. The whole the story. If you're going to take away everything from all the stories we've talked about, the conversations we've had here, the moral of today's episode is don't fuck with, no, it's don't fuck with Darth Vader.
It's the praise Gaben.
Kev is on praise Gaben because he doesn't know. He actually doesn't know any other phrases. So we actually write a script.
Praise Lisa Sue.
We actually write a script for the things for him to say outside of that. If we don't write him a script,
console.
If we don't write him a script on intelligent things to say, he'll just like spout up praise this.
Switch.
That's all he has to say outside of that.
Damn it! You need to be
And on that note, we're going to cut it over to final thoughts on here. Although we're going to skip Kev because he's already had his final thoughts. Xaiphen, any final thoughts that aren't incoherent praising of corporations?
I'm going to have some incoherent praising of myself.
There you go.
Oh, because that's better.
As you know, our every other week we do our gaming stream. Next week is going to be Mass Effect Andromeda, right?
Yep.
Mass Effect Andromeda, and I will be posting up at least Steam Controller profile for that on my Twitter, if not also DS4. DS4 I may just keep it basic and do a X input emulation, but the Steam Controller one will be a little bit more elaborate on that because I've had some fun custom tweaking my controls per usual. So if anybody has any interest in that, head over to my Twitter, which I'm going to put here. Yes. Slowly.
Clack, clack, clack.
Clack, clack, clack.
And I think
it's the bot does. Well, no, you typed it wrong, Xaiphen.
Oh yeah, I typed it wrong.
Tweezai.
Got T.
Yeah. So Rose, any final thoughts?
I want to praise Sega. They brought Yakuza to PC again.
Actually, let's do it this way.
Him.
Rose, do you have any thoughts? Like, where's your Eve storefront so people can come buy stuff from you?
It's shut down right now because unfortunately Horde was, and yes, I was a Hordling. Unfortunately Horde was experiencing a lot of wars, and I think they've been pushed out of the space last I heard.
Hashtag watch for Rose's Warframe storefront.
No, that's too much time. That is way too much fucking time.
I don't have
too much time when you play Eve.
I mean, I've got other MMOs. I'm currently in the middle of exploring and
that's what the problem
Elite
is with
Dangerous.
MMOs. Like, I can't deal with a new one. I've already got too many.
Isn't Elite Dangerous the one where people keep trying to explore as far out into space as possible and then they get stranded because they run out of fuel?
Basically, but those guys are fucking idiots.
No, to me,
they're not in the right ships.
No, to me, you know what that makes me like? Xaiphen, correct me if I'm wrong. That whole running out of fuel, getting stranded in space, Expanse. That just I don't know why. When I read that story, I think it was a couple weeks ago. I was like, holy shit! The Elite Dangerous is like the video game version of The Expanse.
Dude,
I still wanted to get into
realistic
Elite
momentum
Dangerous.
or inertia in that game.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. They do have. I don't play with it on, but you can play with it on or off.
How do you
it's a
actually
little
play
bit
it and
harder.
control it?
Keyboard.
I tried. I couldn't do it. Like I'm just all over the place. I felt like I was holding like a controller upside down. Like when you give the controller to like a little kid.
You
they hold it
can't
upside
play
down,
it
they're
with
all
a
over the place.
controller.
No,
It
I
is
did that.
almost impossible.
I bought a flight stick. I tried it on mouse and keyboard. I tried it with a controller. I was a lost cause.
You need to
I
get
can
good
play
scrub.
MechWarrior Online and SOTOR with a controller, so yeah.
Kev's issue is he needs to get good.
Yeah,
I can't fly. I can't fly in games. So I'm sticking to Total War. I'm sticking to Total War because I'm having a blast with Total War.
That's why Kev doesn't like Anthem.
Yeah.
What, because of Total War?
No, because you can't fly.
Well played, sir.
But yeah, I've played flight sims for so long; it's second nature to me.
So my curiosity though is it playable though? Outside of Kev's needing to get good, is it playable with a flight stick though?
Yes, it is very playable. My fiance plays it with a flight stick, actually.
See, and that's where it's at right there.
That's what I'd be setting up on a Steam controller to do that with.
Yeah,
Jeremy gifted it to me a couple years back.
I've done a number of spaceflight games I've set up like that.
The thing
I've tried it so many times, it just doesn't work. I don't know what I did wrong.
The main thing about Elite Dangerous is that the game has been officially released and it's not looking like vaporware, unlike the other very popular never to be released space sim that is on the.
I mean, hey, DayZ came out.
Yeah, DayZ.
So here's the real question though: is Half-Life 3, Black Mesa, or Star Citizen, which is coming out first?
Half-Life 3 Half-Life 3 will come out first and it will be exclusive to the Epic Games Store. Drop the fucking mic, everybody. We're done.
We're done. Buy Total War Warhammer 2 because it's amazing. Right there. That's my final thought. Buy Total War Warhammer 2. The game is amazing. I'm having a blast with it.
It is.
Age of Wonders, the new one that's coming out in the summer, that looks really good. Looks gonna be really good too.
I haven't really been paying attention to it, but I can say that Warhammer 2 is definitely one of the best. Like one of the things I love about Total War is it's a nice fusion of it has grand strategy and some a little bit of real time strategy elements kind of fused together. When you're on an actual battle map, it's more real time strategy, but then on the actual campaign map, it's more grand strategy. So it's got a kind of nice fusion of the two that I actually really enjoy. And one of the things I love about Warhammer 2 is how every one of the factions, like playing Rome 2, I love that game. I've been a Total War fan for many of their iterations, and a lot of them for different reasons. But one of the things I love about Warhammer 2 is how different every faction plays. Yes. Like you go from one to the next. You play as the Empire, or you play as the undead factions, or as the High Elves or Dark Elves. Every one of them have a very distinct, different kind of gimmick to them that makes them play significantly different. The one I've been recently doing, the most recent campaign I've been doing, is finally getting around to the Xaiphen, which I mean was one of the big touted factions on launch of Warhammer 2 that was added in there, and I never really got around to it because it just didn't sound interesting to me. And to be fair, it breaks my brain a little bit, because whereas a lot of the other factions, especially like High Elves or the Empire or whatever, it's all about organized rank and file soldiers and proper positioning and all that stuff. The Xaiphen is about fucking chaos and disruption. And it's like, it breaks my brain a little bit when I'm on the campaign map, because I'm like, no, I can't think in a rank and file way. If I try to go toe to toe with those fucking heavy armor soldiers, with my heavy armor soldiers, I'm gonna lose because they're not really designed for that. It's more of, no, I've gotta just kind of maybe lure them into going toe to toe with me at the same time. Then I spa up a Menace Below unit from underground and fucking screw them over from behind. Like, it's all about chaos and disruption on there. That game has so much to it that it's really, even without buying a single piece of DLC, I've gotten a couple.
I have all the DLC.
The thing is that I've got a couple of the Legendary Lord packs. I've not actually bought any of the mainline DLC for that game at all. So I don't have the Wood Elves. I don't have. I have the Chaos faction, but I had that carried over from the first game. Now
I have the Tomb King. The Tomb King so far have been my most favorite faction. Tomb Kings are a lot.
Have you done
fun.
Vampire Coast yet?
I have not.
Vampire Coast.
I tried them for a little bit, and then I think I did like 5 turns on them, and then I jumped on the Tomb Kings.
One of the things that's interesting about the Vampire Coast that's kind of unique from what I understand. I have not played it. I don't own it. Is that they are kind of a hybrid horde / not horde. So if you've ever played the Chaos Warrior faction, they're or the Beastmen, which is another DLC I don't have, but the Beastmen or the Chaos Warriors, they're a horde faction. They can't take any cities. They can just destroy cities. And essentially the way you get your units is you raid, you pillage, whatever, get money from that, and then build units in your encamp stance. And essentially your encamp has additional buildings that you can build in the encamp stance. With the Vampire faction, you actually can take cities, but you can also do a horde style gameplay where you can also have that advanced kind of encamp stance as well. So it's kind of a interesting, unique mechanic to it. Dark Elves, one of the things I love about them is that they have a sort of a way of doing that with their Black Arcs, which if you haven't done the Dark Elves, they're also pretty interesting. I get a kick out of them, and I made a lot of jokes because essentially the Dark Elves are the BDSM faction. Like literally one of the units that you can recruit is scantily clad women in leather straps that have whips. I literally am not making this up. I couldn't make this up if I tried.
Guess I know who I'm playing as.
But yeah, in any case,
you're playing as a dwarf, aren't you?
Yeah. Dwarves are
Fuck you.
Loads of fun. But yeah, so in any case, to kind of wrap things up on here, yes, as mentioned and as shocked as Pinnacle Ops was, next week we are actually playing Mass Effect Andromeda.
Finally,
not sure how I'm feeling about that.
Pushing.
Kev has been pestering me. Kev has been pestering me for
like
he's not kidding, a year to play it, and I've been really reticent to touch that disgusting piece of trash again. I'm doing it for the sake of,
shutting him up,
variety, and also shutting him up and trying something
new. And let's be real, people watch us and we see the numbers. People like it when we buy our game.
Yeah, mostly it's Inquisition, but let's be honest.
Well, we get hits for Mass Effect 3 also. I think we're going to get a few hits for Andromeda.
I know. In any case, a lot of it is, I feel I'm like, I'll pick the game back up and play it a little bit. The multiplayer isn't unfun. I just got really put off by how greedy they got with the microtransaction loot box bullshit in there. Mm-hmm. So
and that's what broke my heart about, because the game itself, I still think is fun. I still play it to this day. The multiplayer is fun.
I mean, let's be honest. The subtitle and the summary of Mass Effect Andromeda, you could really summarize as wasted potential, because it had so much potential in the story mode and the multiplayer, and it feels like that they tripped and fell down the stairs while going to that potential, and it's like, that's disappointing. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll be on next Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, playing some Mass Effect Andromeda. We'll be here for that one. And then obviously the week after that, we'll be back for our next podcast as well. Obviously, for those of you watching here online, we do stream every Saturday. One of these two streams, either the podcast or the play streams, alternating every other weekend, every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. If you are listening to this podcast on audio, on our if you guys are listening to this on the audio version that we upload to our very many podcast sources, including, but not limited to, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, Overcast, CastBox, and PocketCast. Oh, Republic Radio on there as well. Then you can also check us out live. We stream this on Twitch, on YouTube, on Mixer. And we also, have a Discord where we chat about all of our goofy shit that we're going on about now. Hear a lot of our rants before they make it onto the stream, and also some rants that never make it onto the stream entirely, just because I really don't care what corporate shilling that Kev is doing this week.
Right
on Nintendo.
Yeah.
Well, actually, while talking about Nintendo, though, give a shout out to Reggie. Reggie's retiring.
I know. I heard
15
that.
years. And
yeah.
I will say, shilling aside, I do think he has actually been a pretty decent ambassador. And if nothing else, he gave us an amazing meme.
No, the thing is
my body is not ready.
No, the thing is that Reggie's actually been a pretty good personal contact for Nintendo. Not only that, I don't know if you guys saw, there was this movie a while back that he was actually in. It was one of those stoner movies, to be frankly honest. Like three guys that work in a hotel or whatever. They get like taken hostage, kind of like a Die Hard scenario, like the first Die Hard movie, except the protagonists are three stoner dudes. But they're like
a Christmas movie.
I don't think it was a Christmas movie.
But Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
I don't know. In any case, the movie at the end, like the guys were trying to sell they were trying to make this robot video game experience or whatever. And at the end, Reggie actually makes a cameo in there. He was one of the hostages, I think, in there, and what do they call it? They called the robot thing. They called it like Skintendo. And
I missed out on that one.
Yeah, so essentially they were like, "Oh yeah, you want to buy us?" And he was like, "No, but I will pay you for the name," or something like that. I was like, fair enough. So in any case, so shout out to Reggie for he's definitely been, I think, a pretty good influence. I think a highlight though was seeing him, Phil Spencer, and that one guy from Sony that I don't remember the name of on stage.
Layton?
Yeah, that's the one. On stage together at the Video Game Awards, and I'm thinking, hey, look at this. These are three super rich guys that are sitting there glad-handing each other backstage saying, man, we're so fucking rich, aren't we? Yes, we are. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's so shocking. These guys should be like, I don't know, fighting or something because they're like rivals. And I'm like, no, they're not. Backstage, they were drinking champagne and congratulating each other on how rich they are.
Right.
They ain't give a
if
fuck.
You actually see these guys on Twitter, like Phil Spencer used to talk about his daughter playing the Wii U. Like, he didn't care. Like, no. And Phil Spencer came out and said it too. Like, I like Phil Spencer. He was saying, no, it's not my job to make you not buy a PS4. It's my job to get you buy an Xbox.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that those high level executives, they're not like, I don't know. People get this, like a lot of the people that are what I would classify as fanboys, those emotionally involved in the products that they're buying, the commodity self people. They feel like that they are emotionally attached to this hardware or this game or this brand that they've bought.
It's not a feeling, they are emotionally attached.
Oh yeah, you're right. They are emotionally attached to it, and they feel like that criticism of that thing that they bought is criticism of them personally. They feel like any potential competitors out there are competitors of them personally. And so when they see the executives of this company like shilling for, or not shilling, but just okay with the fact that there are other brands out there, they're like, no, you should go and blow up their building and kill their families because, there should only be one thing allowed in the marketplace. And I'm like, what is wrong with your brain?
I think that about all these people. Like, it's funny, like, you'll start talking to people, and you think you're just talking about games. And they're like, oh, no, this is about console gaming. I'm like, does it make a difference?
Yeah. No.
It's just that bad on the PC side, too. PC dudes are like, fuck consoles. And I'm like, no, we don't really want one side. You saw what happened when Sony thought they was running shit, and it's called the PlayStation 3. You saw what happened when Microsoft thought they was running shit. It's called the Xbox One.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you saw
you don't want to see PC. You don't want to see that shit on PC.
Kev,
it turns into the Epic Store.
You went, and you know what happens when Nintendo thinks they're running shit? You get the Wii U. It happens.
The N64 is more. It's would be a better
GameCube.
equivalent. The N64
No,
was
no,
actually a better
GameCube.
console.
Actually, the N64 was pretty beastly.
Yes.
First time,
It was pretty
honestly.
beastly, and the PlayStation 1 beat its ass.
No, the thing is that it was still competitive in the market.
That's
If you
Sega's
compare that
fault.
to the GameCube was nothing. Like it fell flat. Nobody fucking wanted that shit.
In fairness, the GameCube went up against the PS2.
It went up against the PS2 and the Xbox, and both. Xbox was an unheard of. It was nothing. It was a nobody coming on.
It also went up against the Dreamcast.
And the Dreamcast, yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, so it had some.
And let's be real, going up against the PS2
we're just meandering at this point.
like Mike Tyson in '87 going up against a random first grader.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get sidetracked too much more along on here, we're gonna get wind down here on the night. Like I said, guys, if you don't want to check us out on any of our social media or in our Discord, there are links down in the description of wherever source you happen to be consuming this podcast from. You can check those out there and come find us. Anyway, we're gonna get signed off of here. You guys have a good weekend. We love your faces and stuff. Except for Kev.
I love you, Phil Spencer.
He only loves you if you are
the
a corporate.
Epic Stash is going to be gone next podcast.
Oh no!
Oh no!
So guys, I guess we'll have to. Unfortunately,
This is the last sighting.
We'll have to bring Xaiphen back to the podcast since Xaiphen's mustache will be gone next weekend.
Can we have the porn stats as like a special guest?
Epic Stash. That's what it's now known as, the Epic Stash.
It's still the porn stash. It'll always be the porn stash.
It's only because we're discussing so many epic fails that it's got to be the Epic Stash.
It is epic fails. That is literally it. So anyway, we're gonna get signed off here, guys. We'll be back next week with some Mass Effect Andromeda, all that good fun. You guys have a good one. We love y'all. Thank you very much for everybody that signs in and doesn't listen to Kev's nonsense. I very much appreciate that. And stuff.
And we praise Xaiphen. Praise Xaiphen. Praise Xaiphen. And Lisa. Praise Xaiphen. Fuck Jitsu Wong. He made a $1,200 graphics card.
Kev, you are.
What?
You are hell of.
You're breaking up, Rose. I didn't catch any of that. I'm hell of something.
You're one hell of
a character.
One hell of a.
There it is.
Hold on.
I turned it on for the podcast.